the MP with Fadzayi on ZiFM Stereo.
Very warm welcome to Ask the MP. It is only on ZiFM Stereo, my station, your station. We do this every Wednesday evening at 7:30 p.m. and I do thank you for tuning in and for choosing us this evening. My name is Fadzayi Mahere, and as always, we'd love for you to tell family and friends wherever they are across the country to tune in and follow us. Just a quick reminder of our frequencies: Motora Shanga 97.6, Gweru 104.3, in Kariba 105.3, in Chimanimani 91.3. You can also catch us live on our website, that is zfmstereo.co.zw. We're also streaming this program live on our Facebook page as well as other social media and digital platforms, so be sure to follow us there and also via the TuneIn app. Tonight's focus of discussion is on political violence. This comes in the wake of concerns that have been raised by civic society groups saying that there's been an increase in politically motivated violence cases around the country as the nation braces for a high election period. We know that by-elections are coming up, and in 2023 we'll go into the harmonized elections. In recent weeks there have been several confirmed and unconfirmed reports of political violence by both the ruling ZANU PF and the opposition Citizens Coalition for Change. Now, as I said, civic society groups have raised concern about this. We know that the police has called and urged on political party supporters to desist from political violence, and we know that they are also undertaking investigations into some of the issues that have taken place. So allow me very quickly to introduce my panel, my guests for this evening. Joining us on the line all the way from Layo is none other than Assistant Commissioner Paul Nyathi, who is the National Police Spokesperson. Assistant Commissioner, thank you for joining us.
Good evening.
Your line is not the greatest, but I certainly hope that it will carry us through and that you can answer some of the key questions that we have, certainly at the onset of the program. I'm also joined in the studio by Tafadzwa Mugwadi, who is the ZANU PF Director of Information and Publicity. Great to have you on the program, sir.
Thank you very much, and good evening to everyone.
And also joining us in the studio is the spokesperson for the Citizens Coalition for Change, Advocate Fadzayi Mahere. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening, Farai. Thank you very much for having us.
Listeners, as I always like to say, this program belongs to you. We'd love for you to get in touch with us, to interact with us, to pose questions, to make comments and contributions, and we'll certainly be taking some of those. Our WhatsApp page is, WhatsApp number is 0731 168 0731 168. Send us a message. 073168 sorry, 0731168045. Send us a WhatsApp message or send us a voice note. You can also get in touch via our social media platforms. I know there are questions that have already been posted on our Twitter page, and I'll be taking some of those very, very shortly. But to kick us off, let me begin with Assistant Commissioner Nyathi. We know that in recent days there have been cases of violence in Matobo. Could you tell us, and we know we certainly saw a post by the ZRP talking about investigations into that. Could you please update us in terms of where you are with that investigation, sir?
Thank you, Farai. The Zimbabwe Republic Police received a report telling alleged acts of political violence in Matobo, and we have a report from people see where their supporters, their members, the report make the report. The reports are now subject to investigation. We have a report from ZANU-PF members where we made report pertaining to alleged acts of political violence. Again, the reports are now to police investigation. And on daily basis, since the reports were made to police in Matobo, the officer commanding surveillance found the update on what is happening. There are people who come forward and say this is what has happened. There are people who are certain things from the political parties. and we are conducting investigation. What I want to say, Fadzayi, that as the police, we appeal to political parties. We appeal to political party members, supporters, to exercise not a war. It's a contestation, and we want them to contribute towards maintenance of law and order in the country by being exemplary, by being people who observe the law in whatever activity they are taking.
If I can just come in there, Assistant Commissioner, and ask you this, I think a concern that I've certainly heard raised, that has been raised by listeners on our social media pages, and I'd like to put you is that, they seem to suggest that these investigations never really lead to anything. Could you perhaps give us some feedback in terms of previous cases? Have perpetrators been brought to book? Has there been any action on previous, not this particular one, but certainly in the by-elections that we've had previously, there have been reports of political violence. Do we get to the bottom of these investigations?
Certainly, right. And one thing I want to appeal to Zimbabwe is that whenever one makes a report for this, we appeal for them to cooperate. We appeal for them to give the police whatever information is available, no matter how much. That information is key in terms of conducting investigation. In the case of Togo, we have received information from ZANU. We have received information from Triple, and the police is currently sifting through that information.
So again, going back to that, to the question that I had posed was previous cases of political violence. Have people been brought to the courts? Have people been arrested? Have these cases been investigated to their end?
Where the cases have been presented before the court, and then normally a docket is presented before the court. The court is to guide the police on how to speak, because they have to indicate to the police whether there are areas which the police needs to look into or needs to clarify. This is an ongoing process, including in the previous case which you are alluding.
One more question before I bring in my other guest here. Assistant Commissioner, do you think the police could play a stronger role in preventing such cases, perhaps increasing their presence or increasing awareness and education? Do you think that the police has done enough to prevent these cases?
Certainly, Fadzayi. In terms of gathering, the maintenance of in the order is very clear. The conveners have worked close to local representing authorities who in this are of managing for district. So I would want to urge at the same time appeal political parties to say, wherever you want to have the gathering, wherever you want to have your meeting, please engage local police so that whatever concerns are there, they are addressed at local level.
May I just say, this is just now my personal opinion. I think that the biggest deterrent or way to prevent this would be to throw the book at these perpetrators, to come to investigate and put people behind bars. I think that, in my view, would be the most effective way of preventing this. Let me just get your response to that comment before I bring in the other participants.
Certainly, Fadzayi. That's why we are calling upon political players to cooperate with the police. Because yes, a report can be made, but if you don't get the necessary cooperation, the necessary support, I tell you, we'll be having challenges in terms of conducting investigations.
allow me now to bring in the other participants in the discussion. And as I did say, I've got representatives from the ruling ZANU-PF as well as the Citizens Coalition for Change in the studio. I want to, first of all, get your views, both of you who are here. I'll begin with you, Mr. Mugwadi. Why is it that we continue to see this cycle of violence around elections year after year? I mean, it's been prevalent for a long time now. What could be the missing link as to why we continue to see this?
Well, I must tell you that you raised yourself quite a bit accurate when you said that it's been a cycle. And when something has been a cycle, it means there is need for a process to end a particular cycle. And that process begins with conduct of political players. Because political players are the major stakeholders during elections, aren't they? And the people. In the process of engaging the people, this is where we have seen cases of violence arising. You ask us from ZANU-PF because indeed we have done our deliberations at every level to say what really is the cause of these incidences. However, before I go into detail, I must just hasten to point out that if you look at those cases compared to what we used to have in the past, you would appreciate that cases of violence or politically motivated violence, as it were, have decreased in the Second Republic than they were. But be that as it may, we are not here, and I'm not here to say the ruling party is celebrating the decrease, because ultimately the objective is to ensure that our elections are conducted peacefully, freely and fairly, and that the security of every individual participating in those elections is very important and sacrosanct, such that we must have zero cases of violence ahead of elections. Let me therefore come to what we've seen to be the major causes of violence as we look at it, and including the isolated cases. I must tell you and the listeners that we have a political organization called ZANU-PF. We have agitative political groupings. Of course, then they were the MDC, they split now, they exist in some other formation. That's about them to explain about exactly who they are. I really have no sufficient knowledge about them, as it were, and I'm sure their supporters too, and probably themselves. But I'm saying these agitative political organizations in the opposition, particularly as the MDC then, have never taken themselves and submitted themselves to the wisdom of the people, carrying a succinct program of action of development for the people. What do they carry to elections? They carry provocative politics. And provocative politics that stokes violence. I'll give you exactly what happened in Matobo. And I'm sure if you look at it and if your memory serves you very well, we were the first political organization to pronounce ourselves with regards to the instances that took place there. The Yellow Banana faction of the opposition hired people from Blawayo to go and disrupt a gathering, a peaceful gathering that was taking place in Matobo, organized by our DCC structures as they carried out the mobilization. It was a gathering. If you look even deep into detail for the video they are circulating on social media, it shows women who are taking videos of ZANU-PF vehicles and young people who they had disrupted their rally. But what is quite very ironic, even as you watch that video, is that those women are making blatant, false, propaganda-driven allegations that these people are shooting at us. And I've tweeted to say, one would want to know whether those women were dodging bullets when they were recording that video from a distance of less than 30 meters. And they were provocative, chasing ZANU-PF youths until At the end of the video, you see those ZANU PF just saying, but comrades, we cannot be chased away from these constituents. We can't run away from these CCC supporters. You saw that. I'm just trying to put this video in context. On top of that, they went on to circulate, sadly so, semi-nude photos of elderly women, saying they had been stripped by ZANU PF supporters. If you look at that image as well, you look at the woman, the third woman who is clad in the CC regalia and jovial. She's among those. And you would want to ask whether that woman, elderly as she is she a martial artist such that she could not resist what had happened to others if ever it had happened? So what am I saying in conclusion?
If I could just stop you, I'll allow
Okay,
you to conclude, and I'll give equal time to your counterpart. Go ahead. In conclusion.
Okay. In conclusion, I'm saying the opposition, unlike ZANU PF, when we go to the wards for by-elections, a majority of which we have won, we go there with programs of development. We take boreholes to the people. We take Pumvuza to the people. What do they bring? They come themselves empty-handed but carrying knob carries and stones and hired hooligans to try to cause commotion. And then in the process, the violence that ensues with some people trying to defend themselves and them striking is what they would normally use as a justification to say this by-election was rigged.
Okay.
Where they don't provoke,
let me stop
they
you there.
win, they say
I will come
we've
back
won
to you.
fairly.
I will come back to you.
Thank you.
Let me bring in your counterpart. Again, the same question I posed here is, why do we continue to see these cycles? And I suppose the deeper question is, why do the electorate, these people who do it, keep doing it year after year?
So the truth of the matter, Farai, is that ZANU PF can never win a free and fair election in Zimbabwe. And whenever their backs are against the wall, they resort to violence. We saw it in 2008, and we're starting to see it again. And it doesn't just start with the violence itself. It starts with the incitement. You'll recall months ago, shortly after the formation of the CCC earlier this year, we had a top ZANU PF official saying that the CCC must be crushed like lice. I'm surprised Mr. Nyathi said that the police do things about this, because absolutely nothing was done. Following that, we had in July the case of Abton Mashayanyika, again at a ZANU PF rally, saying that President Nelson Chamisa should be killed, CCC people should be killed, they should be completely destroyed from the political framework. We also saw in Nyathi, again, that councillor from ZANU PF saying, no, the CCC can never come here, it's a ZANU PF zone. If they come here, they'll see what comes for them. Just today, we had a report on the Newshawks site with a recording, an audio recording from Owen Ncube and Daniel Mackenzie Ncube in Midlands, saying that they're going to unleash violence onto the CCC, and 2023 is going to be worse than 2008. So we can see where the violence comes from. It's never the CCC. In fact, contrary to what the ZANU PF leaders say, President Nelson Chamisa has always said, we call for peace. We call for non-violent resistance. We are a party that wants elections and not war. We're a party that wants to win the battle of ideas, not a battle of violence. And if you now come to the developments in Matobo, you'll see that they actually confirm the importance of our call for a conducive environment for elections in Zimbabwe. We released our prepared document, which says that, look, one of the important reform pillars as we approach 2023 is that there be security of the voter. You cannot go into an election where one party is denied the opportunity to campaign. And we do condemn the selective application of the law and the abuse of state institutions, including the police service by ZANU PF, where our rallies are banned, our gatherings are banned. Each time we try and meet, we see ZANU PF people coming and disturbing our meetings. In Matobo, what you actually saw, Mr. Mugwadi is obviously misleading the audience, because what actually happened is there were ZANU PF vehicles from Mashonaland Central who had come to disrupt the campaigning that was taking place. In fact, it was a polling agents meeting and mobilization that was taking place in Matobo. It didn't actually stop there. The very next day in Insiza, we had violence again perpetrated against women. And, even the stripping, the shaming of women, all of this, these aren't isolated acts of violence. In fact, it's a pattern of conduct of violence on the part of ZANU PF. We saw it in Gukurahundi. We saw it with the 2008 elections. We saw it with Operation Murambachina. We've seen repeated acts of electoral violence perpetrated against anybody who raises their voice. They don't only do it to the CCC, even, as against journalists. Any civic act that raises their voice and says, we want change, we want transformation, ZANU PF's their default position is one of violence. We, as we've consistently said, condemn the use of violence in politics. We want to battle on the ideas front. We know in the data, the Afrobarometer report says that if an election were to be called today and if it were free and fair, the Triple C would win. That's all we insist on, a free and fair playing field. And coming to the police, commissioner, we do insist that they have to act impartially. When we saw more Blessing Ali's investigation done, they were quick to exonerate ZANU PF before they had any evidence. Boneni Ncube, at the site of his death, they found ZANU PF members with ZANU PF cards, and yet to date, we've heard absolutely nothing about those investigations. Mashaya Nyika Abton said this in July, and up to now, we've heard nothing from the police commissioner about what happened to those investigations.
And
when it's ZANU PF, they let them go. But when it's Triple C, we see Job Sikala, who did nothing, Godfrey Sitole, who did nothing, the Nyathi group, who did nothing, being placed behind bars.
Before I go to Assistant Commissioner, I want to ask you, Mr. Mugwadi, you made reference to the photographs that were posted on social media. Yeah. And I want to make reference to a tweet that you then tweeted. I see it's your handle here, but you can then confirm, where you say, I think you make reference where you say, seeing they are legendary strippers. They have done that before. They also fainted Parliament. They can fake everything. If they were forced to remove Triple C t-shirt as stupidly alleged, so the third woman at the back with a CCC t-shirt is a martial artist, right? Confirm that is, you did tweet that. And then hashtag drama queens. Yes. I'm just coming from a point of view of, you are obviously, a senior person in the party, and people look up to you and follow your sort of example. Does the tone of this tweet speak of tolerance? Does it speak? What does it speak of? Just your.
You say, I was going to say this at the initial instance. The media has also been very much collusive in the violence that takes place across political parties, and it is such conduct that also causes violence, because people have a tendency of picking sides, and in the process, they are seen to be nurturing and providing water for necessary beds of violence in other political parties. Why do I say this? This discussion is taking place today. It follows another discussion that we had in this building following the death of Mo Blessing Ali, who was callously murdered by Pius Jamba, and Pius Jamba was arrested and is in detention and before the law. After that, there was the needless violence where buildings in Nyathi were arsened by Triple C supporters, deny. Where motor vehicles were arsened by CC supporters at the instigation of Job Scala, deny. Where houses of alleged ZANU PF supporters were burned in Nyathi, resulting in the eventual death of Comrade Muramba Tswina, was our chairman there, who died 4 days after his house was burned. And it was burned while he was inside, and his children had to extricate them, inhaled carbon monoxide and so forth, and died 4 days later. And that no one has talked about that killing, but everyone here talked about Mo Blessing Ali. When those killings against Muramba Tswina took place, we didn't have this occasion because it was supposedly not ZANU PF but CCC, and the assumption is that CC things are not supposed to be spoken out. Fast forward that, just last week, the disturbances that have been taking place in Mbare, and Triple C supporters killed Mavangira, a ZANU PF supporter at Mpezanam. You have that, isn't it? But because there are allegations of what happened in Matobo supposedly against CCC, then this discussion was necessitated. When it's a violence perpetrated against the ZANU PF supporters, for the media or some sections of the media, and I'm shocked, it is supposed to be probably this one as well, ZANU PF supporters and leaders have no rights. They have no right to life. They have no rights. Human rights exist in the opposition. ZANU PF supporters are not human beings. I must tell ZANU PF supporters that don't tolerate that nonsense. You are alone in this game. You fight for your own rights because you are all equal before the law. Now, coming to this issue which you have spoken about, you wanted to profile me or to ask my IQs. I didn't think that it is necessary, but let me qualify. What I said in that picture is exactly what you are seeing, that the third woman is clad in their regalia and was not stripped. That's number one. Number two, the other picture on it reflects Tabita Kumalo, who was demonstrating at Parliament naked, isn't it? And Tabita Kumalo is supposed to be the chairperson of Triple C. If ever they have structures, I don't know. But you don't want to talk about that because and my point is that they've done that before. They are drama queens. These are what we call in ZANU PF. We have seen so many of these Farai. False flag operations aimed at making a case for violence in Zimbabwe. Now, I want to ask you, where the doctor called Magombe, who announced his disappearance and found himself a week later and announced to the world he had found himself. And even some of his fellow doctors were to ask him, how did you survive 7 days without food? Then he'll go and say, you know, in science, the next thing he disappears, he rushes away. I'm sure Paul Nyathi would want to know where that guy is, because he disappeared with his case. It was a false flag operation. You had the case, other cases before the course that I will not talk about. But now what I'm trying to say, Farai, is it is wrong to carry these discussions on the assumptions that ZANU-PF are perpetrators. Where we are victims, we don't talk about it. You are promoting violence in that conduct. The media must be responsible.
The background to the discussion, as I said, was a rise in political violence on both sides. And I think in the intro that I read was that civic society groups are saying that there have been reports on both sides.
Just briefly.
So it's not specific. We did not point out. And at the beginning, I did say, why do we? I did not point out that there was anyone who had done that.
Just briefly to qualify myself, to qualify what I'm talking about. Okay, I've given you those instances I've talked about. They were not sufficient enough to provoke or invoke a discussion of this nature to say indeed violent cases are rising because it was ZANU-PF as victims. I cannot speak for you are not the media. Farai, I'm not singling you out. You are not the media unless you want to confirm yourself. What I'm saying, Farai, is if we need to be a genuine society, we must make sure that our conduct reflects maturity.
Indeed.
President Mnangagwa, when he says no to political violence as a means of political mobilization, he is not speaking to me or ZANU-PF supporters alone. Remember, we have two critical jackets, that of the president and head of state, which must also bind Fadzayi and his crew or a band of followers, if ever.
So let me ask
that
you
we
this.
conduct ourselves in discipline without violence. We don't need violence in ZANU-PF to win elections.
Indeed.
We have structures to do that.
The question
they
that
don't
I
have
asked,
anything on
the question that I asked at the onset was, why do we continue to see violence? Are you suggesting or are you saying that the violence is one-sided? The party that you represent,
I will be stupid. Farai, I will be stupid like others to say that there are not elements who have been engaging in instances of violence in ZANU-PF, whether in self-defense or not. I will be stupid to not acknowledge that. But they will also be stupid, if I'm supposed to be that stupid, if they cannot acknowledge that Triple C supporters have been talking violence and are the major perpetrators, and they kill and they've killed people. I have given you the names.
Would you?
You gave me the names. Can you confirm the names I have given you?
My final question is coming back to this tweet, and not the content of it, but terms like
false flag operations,
those sort of things. What sort of message do you think they send out to your supporters? Do these sort of tweets not, I don't want to say fan, but do you not think that they may contribute to the animosity, to the antagonism?
Thank you.
Do you not think so?
Let me give you a tweet that is probably worse than that. Chamisa does not only tweet, but he goes to a rally in Mashingo and says, I'm sending this message to Mkoma wangu Mnangagwa. I'm a soldier. I grew up in a barrack. Of course, the father was a Rhodesian military element and responsible for fighting black fighters of freedom. Anyway, he says, I have capacity to cause violence in this country, but I restrain my troops. Take note of this statement. I have capacity. We have capacity as Triple C to be violent and to win this country by any means, but I have restrained my supporters. This is a leader. And then to the contrary, President Mnangagwa says, he is literally boasting for violence. President Mnangagwa says, let us embrace peace. Let us extend a hand of peace to each other and know that we are Zimbabweans first. That's my conduct. But for this tweet, I will tell you that if people behave like drama queens, I should not call them queens and kings. I must call them for who they are, with the hope that they reflect that conduct is very bad. You don't seek to mislead.
Advocate Mahere, let me now bring you in. Again, to respond to some of the issues that have been raised, but to also put it to you that I don't want to say political leaders, but as senior people within parties, not just yourself, but is there conduct that is done at the highest levels across the political divide that could be sending a message to people at lower levels that, you know what, let's engage in this sort of conduct?
Well, that is certainly true for ZANU PF. ZANU PF consistently incites violence. My learned, or not learned, but my colleague should just wait. I gave him the chance to respond, so he must also be restrained and give me a chance.
No, it's okay. My tendency is to return fire for fire.
Indeed.
Well, they are a violence party. That's exactly why we are here.
Okay, let's allow it to respond. Yes.
Let's proceed.
Go ahead.
Now, Mr. Mugwadi could not and did not refute what I said about their top ZANU PF leader saying that the Triple C should be crushed like lice. He did not refute what I said about Abton Mashayanyika, saying that Nelson Chamisa and the Triple C should be killed. He did not refute what I said about Owen Ncube and Daniel Mackenzie Ncube just recently, saying in the Midlands that we're going to have violence worse than 2008 perpetrated against the Triple C and that the Triple C are sellouts. We've heard this rhetoric consistently from ZANU PF. To the contrary, the Triple C, President Nelson Chamisa, has consistently said that we are a party of peace. One of our key pillars is non-violent resistance. It's not true. Everything he's saying is a complete and utter lie.
So
that President Chamisa's
just hold on.
That President Chamisa, that President Chamisa's father is a Rhodesian soldier. All of that, it's just lies. It's inflammatory misrepresentations that are calculated, obviously, to mislead your audience. But the truth of the matter is that all the evidence points to ZANU PF being responsible for this violence. If you go to rural areas right now in Chirumanzu, as we speak, there are midnight raids that are taking place. Our members are being beaten. There are threats of death. They're being told that anyone anongo tengesa, anongo mira ni Triple C, anorowa, anoraiwa. We know that that's what's happening. We know that there's been the weaponization of food aid. We know that there's been an abuse of the assisted voter procedure. We know that there is no security whatsoever, especially in the rural areas. Just today, we heard that audio shared by Newshawks where, Owen Ncube is specifically saying that there are headmen that are selling out and that are siding with the Triple C. All of that is inflammatory. And we've said the exact opposite. We've said that there should be an end to political violence. The use of guns in politics must end. It's ZANU PF that's always caught on video with guns, shooting guns into the air. And as for Nyathi, there's not been a single conviction of our members for violence. In fact, if you read the dockets, I read each of the 17 dockets individually. None of the 17 of the Nyathi group were at the scene of any violence. Some are lorry drivers, some are bus owners, some are just members of parliament who attended the funeral, some are just Triple C activists who weren't even in Nyathi on the day in question. And yet they've been incarcerated for over 120 days. This is clear weaponization of the law. Where are the arrests of people who incite violence for ZANU PF? Where is the arrest of Owen Ncube? Where's the arrest of Abton Mashayanyika? Where's the arrest of that top official who said the Triple C should be crushed like lice? How come they're allowed 6-month investigations that never materialize into anything when it's ZANU PF? We continue to see ZANU PF abusing state institutions, abusing police services. Just recently in Chinoi, we had an incident where, a petrol bomb was detonated. And we made the report to the police. We gave the police all the evidence. I personally went to Chinoi to assist the police with their investigations. Nothing was done. But it doesn't stop there. Every single time President Nelson Chamisa tries to approach a rural area, there is violence that follows. Barricading of roads. We saw it in Mashingo, we saw it in Chivi, we saw it in Gundu, we saw it in Chirezi, Zaka, Bikita, Chipinge, Nyamaropa, Hurungwe, Karoi, Wedza, Seko Rural, Gokwe Center, Gokwe Kabuyuni. Every single time the Triple C goes anywhere, ZANU PF responds with violence. They simply can't mobilize people peacefully. They have no idea to sell to the people. They have no plan to sell to the people for progress. They have no sincerity of motive. Instead, all we are seeing on the part of ZANU PF and people are fed up of is the poverty, the injustice and the corruption. And because they've got nothing to give to the people, they've now resorted to violence. A party that is popular does not resort to violence.
Let me come in here. You still have your allocated, like I said, I want to give you equal time, but there's a question that's come through from a listener that directly follows up with what you just said there. Wahunzeri via Twitter, Lee H, is his handle is Wahunzeri, it's Lee H. You've obviously listed your cases of, that where you've reported violence, alleged violence and things like that. So he says, please ask Advocate Mahere, do you have a solution for the violence that you keep condemning the violence, but condemning it doesn't end it? What is the solution? What is the plan, if any?
Well, I think the answer for that member of the audience lies in the Constitution. The Constitution is abundantly clear about what should happen when there are instances of violence against people, violence against property. And Section 219 expressly states that there is a police service in Zimbabwe which is responsible for detecting, investigating, and preventing crime, for protecting and securing the lives and property of the people. Now, to expect an opposition party or a citizens movement to do the job of the police is to accept that the police has failed in its duties. Is that what we're saying? Have we gotten to that point as Zimbabweans where we can no longer trust the police to do their job and people have to take upon themselves their constitutional duty? We have consistently said we're not going to take up arms against anybody because we stand for the citizens. We are not going to resort to war. We're not going to resort to violence. We want to win an election and we want to win it fair and square. But state institutions must not be abused by ZANU-PF as we've been seeing. Instead, they must carry out their constitutional duties. So what that listener is asking should actually be asked to the police service. Why aren't you doing your job? Why is it that when violence broke out at one of our members' homes in Matobo, we called the police? The police said they had no fuel. They're abrogating their duty contained in Section 219 of the Constitution, and we continue to hold them accountable in respect of that. They've got a duty to be impartial, to be independent, and to carry out their duty without fear or favor. They cannot be issuing out statements when a citizen has been abducted, tortured, and murdered, as we saw with Mo Blessing Ali, and immediately exonerate ZANU-PF before they've conducted an investigation. They're not a court of law. They don't get to pronounce upon the guilt or innocence of any party. It simply does not work that way. So we call for independence and professionalism on the part of the police service. As I said, this program belongs to you, the listener, so I'm dedicating the next 20 minutes to contributions. This is the listener speaking, and I will, I'll send questions to both the listeners here. So I'm going to read a few of them and then allow the panelists to respond. Bruno Tembo in Mvurwi says, maintaining public order, enforcing the law, and preventing criminal activities and investigations of crimes, protecting victims. We don't see any of these things in ZRP. Mm-hmm. They only protect those from the ruling party. Correct. There's another one coming through here. Let's be honest, our police and judiciary system is biased towards the status quo and very unprofessional too. Look what happened at Matobo. If our police is fair, unprofessional and unbiased, this will ease considerably political violence and tension as we go towards the election period. This is from True Patriot. I want to read a few more. Please ask Mugwadi to comment on another video which was circulating on social media whereby a young man was being assaulted and thrown into the back of a ZANU-PF truck, of which he tried to jump till some people came to his aid. Okay, I will give my comments on social media video before I hand over to you, but let me read as many of these questions as we can. Okay, sorry, this is unrelated. Good day. Please ask Mugwadi if he's seen the video evidence of ZANU-PF branded cars with youths attacking CCC members. Roy Parua, yes. Thank you so much. Yes, Mugwadi can say there is a difference from First Republic. They know they are the cause of they are the one cause of violence. Let me see what else. I think this is a very telling one. Some coming through saying, we are tired of parties and police who are partaking endless investigations. That this is coming through from one of our listeners. I want to read as many of these as possible and then allow you guys to respond as well. ZANU-PF has resorted to violence as a power consolidation tool. Most people are victims of this. Such conduct will be dealt with, or will not be dealt with, only unless the rule of law replaces rule by law as it is. Okay, so that's from Privilege Nyamunga in Westgate. Now, I want to begin with you, Comrade Mugwadi. Those are the listeners' comments, and I'll allow you to respond to what you've heard and indeed what you've also heard from your counterpart. And like I said, I want to give you guys equal time, so you can respond as you see fit, starting now.
Thank you. You know, I always envy civil discussions. When you have the pleasure to call me unlearned, you must satisfy the listeners and your viewers and your fans with a message that depicts a learned somebody. But if you have a tendency of throwing names to besmirch others and thinking you are holier than thou, I don't think it serves a discussion that started well. Anyway, let me say to my colleague, learned is you are supposed to be. You come here, you say, I have not responded to a message you have raised about Owen Ngwe. Let me tell you, you know, Farai, I'm sure asking here, you ask between me and her, in terms of responsibility of communication, who has lawsuits before the courts on basis of defamation of various manner and character between me and her? And supposedly, right now she has a court case where she's denying her official Twitter account, which is verified. It is because her association and the relationship with truth is monumentally adversarial, and it's said to have a situation like that when you are supposed to be a mouthpiece. It's because you want to lie through your teeth, but when asked and put in a corner to substantiate your claims, you can't say that. So this is in response to what she's saying is an audio that comes through from Owenue. The veracity of that audio, I haven't listened to it, but I don't even know it, and I don't want to comment about it because I don't want to be taken to court over things that I have no knowledge about, unless she has evidence. That's a case I would want to know it. Then coming to the issue of Mashanyika she talks about, there goes a lawyer who is an advocate. She says Job Scala is in prison for having threatened violence in Nyathi. I think we all saw the video. There's also another video where he's addressing women. I think you saw it. Did you see it, Farai? I think you also, if you didn't, that's not a problem, because it reflects also something about your job as media, whether you are really diligently or you are targeting at a particular outcome. I thought by now you should have seen it. There's that video where he says, we are going to mobilize, and I will take the responsibility to mobilize to make sure that the family that killed Mobilizing Ali will be exterminated from the face of the earth by whichever way we do it. That was the message. Now, he is in detention out of that, because the outcome out after that was violence that destroyed people's homes, burned cars, burned shops. People were wantonly beaten by Triple C supporters. Did we saw that? Did we see that? Did you see that, Farai? I want you to confirm. She says it was ZANU-PF that did this, and because CCC doesn't do it honestly. So we are coming here as supposed spokespersons or managers of communication for a political organization to lie and to deny responsibility over things that have taken place in broad daylight. Are we responsible? And is that what we do when we are learned? My final issue is to ask you, the structure of violence existed in the MDC alliance to which she was a spokesperson. Who doesn't know the vanguard and what it was doing? But everyone cheerleaded it. You were cheerleading it. Everyone. But it was causing violence. You don't want to talk about it. But because I'm a responsible communicator and I come from an honest political organization that is led by earnest and honest men, they acknowledge there was a structure of violence organized in Mbare by people like such as Jim Kunaga called Chipangano. Let me talk about it.
No, I think it would be an injustice if you don't respond to the messages.
Okay, let me respond.
I'm doing this in the interest of time because we're almost out of time.
But so I wanted to acknowledge, to say there was a Chipangano there which was carrying violence supposedly for ZANU-PF. When President Mnangagwa was appointed vice president in 2014, you saw the ejection of people such as Jim Kunaga from the party for such conduct, because he said we cannot build a 21st century revolutionary party out of our glorious past. It was banned. They don't confront theirs, Farai. That is why we have this cycle, because they don't want to acknowledge that there are some of their supporters who have a tendency towards violence. They don't acknowledge. It's all supposed to be ZANU-PF. It's a sorry state if we are supposed to be learned in that regard. Coming to the viewers, in terms of the messages.
The messages I read
yes,
them. They seem to be, these are ones as they are coming through.
I do have them. One of the messages that was thrown was ZANU-PF supporters are not arrested when they engage in violence, and it appears Triple C supporters are arrested as well. It again goes in sync with what the supposedly Leonard said earlier. Now, the comparison which has been often used when answering to that question is that Job Scala threatened violence and is inside. Absolute Mashanyika. who made that message in Gokwe saying kana munhu kanzi pasi naye unofanirwa kuurawa is not in jail. Now I thought Fadzayi, being an advocate, has passed through clear tutorials of criminal law and criminology. The actions, the intentions and actual actions of Job Scala had the result of violence. Didn't we see it? And the consequences were felt and were criminal. But the message, Absalom Mashanyika, we don't condone it, we rejected it, we made a statement about it, we were very clear. But it did not materialize to criminal conduct because no one was killed or beaten out of that. And it was the police summoned him to warn him against doing that, which was just. But for Job's situation, violence took place, somebody died. But again, one were not. Bail is a right. It's a right. Yeah, Job's galopua bail. What are they saying about Pius Jamba? We don't interfere. We don't interfere with the courts. The courts are supposed to be independent, and they are. Those who celebrate after winning certain court cases, remember Job Scala has been inside. He won it, he was given bail and came out of court. He violated 3 bail conditions of similar manner. That is why they are denying bail, we are told by lawyers.
Let me ask one final question, Comrade Mugwadi. And I said, again, because of time, I want to give you guys equal time, and we're almost out of time. The overwhelming sentiment from the listeners here seems to suggest that police are reluctant to arrest ZANU-PF supporters. ZANU-PF are the instigators of violence and all that. Does this mean that perhaps there's something wrong with our WhatsApp machine, that we are not, that these are all, how would you explain, just very briefly, why maybe
I wouldn't suggest there's anything wrong with your WhatsApp or, Farai. It is these messages that can actually be sent by one person from one portal, but that is a story for another day. All that I'm just telling you, Farah, is that we win elections because we don't campaign on WhatsApp, we go to the people. So with regards to that message you are talking about with supporters, I will tell everyone that cares to listen and also advise the police if these concerns are such genuine, they must be dealt with. I'm not a sacred cow. I'm a director of information. We have central committee members, we have Politburo members, but this is what the president has said. If you commit crime and you are a member of the party, senior or otherwise, cabinet minister, top government official, or just a mere Fadzayi, you are equal before the law. You must carry your cross. So I will carry my cross.
Indeed. Let me come to you, Advocate Mahere, to respond to this. Just let me read a couple of more. Both parties have traces of violence. The problem is that they think everybody is partisan. Pachokwadi people are not safe. Please save us. Police must do its duty. Good evening. We want free and fair elections. No to violence. This is from Akim Kwendambairi. So your responses to what is coming through here, and I suppose what I also want to ask you, and you are the qualified legal person here, I had said I wanted to ask something about videos we see on social media, voice notes and things like that. Where there is no context, should we really place authenticity on it? Because we are just seeing a particular picture in some cases. So I'll give the example. There's a listener who said, comment on, we saw someone being thrown in a ZANU-PF vehicle and then people came to his aid. So we don't know the context. Perhaps this was a thief, or whatever. So where we don't have context. So I'm just also wanting you to comment on these things that we see on social media that aren't verified sometimes.
So I'll start with the second question that you asked. And I think the difficulty ZANU-PF finds itself in is when their top official says the Triple C must be crushed like lice. It's not as though they disown that statement. So it's recorded, it's reported in the media, and they don't say, no, we didn't say that, or that's not what we believed in. When Apton Mashanyika said what he did, what did Assistant Commissioner Nyathi say? He said, we're investigating, but we never heard what came of that investigation. It was never disputed that he was doing this at a ZANU-PF rally in, I believe it was Mberengwa. Then we also have this, if you may allow me, Mr. Mugwadi, keep quiet, because I kept quiet when you you spoke.
You were lied.
Thank
It's
you.
okay, Comrade Mugwadi.
You lied consistently. I didn't bait you. But anyway, let's go on. So what the weight of opinion actually tells you, and these are your own viewers and your own listeners, it's not even Triple C members, is that it's clear for everyone to see that we have partisan reactions to so-called allegations of violence. You can't tell me what Godfrey Sithole ever said to anyone that warranted him being in jail for 120 days. But more fundamentally, the presumption of innocence, which is part of our law, says that every person is presumed innocent until they are proven guilty. So you can't say, well, they incited violence, so they should be held before a trial is concluded. And if you listen to what Beatrice Mtetwa said on their behalf, she said, look, can we speed up the trial? And what does the state do? The state refuses to get the trial started. Like, if you're confident that there's been violence on the part of Triple C members, for goodness sake, try them, convict them. But look what happens to those convictions. We saw what happened to the conviction of Makomborero Haruzivishe. The High Court threw it out. We saw what happened to the convictions of Last Maenga Hama and Tungamirai Madzokere. They were thrown out. These are all part of a concerted effort to persecute opponents. And I think the public can see it very clearly. That you say that there's no context to the videos. The videos that were shared following the Matobo violence were very clear. You have MASH Central vehicles that are branded ZANU-PF, and Mr. Mugwadi didn't dispute that. Even in Nsiza, the same thing. You've got branded ZANU-PF vehicles that are advancing towards these women. We saw all the injuries and the bruises that Honorable Jasmine Tofa has. All of this is by ZANU-PF. We did not see a single person being beaten by the Triple C who's a member of ZANU-PF. We just didn't see it. Where's the evidence? There simply is absolutely none. So what we say as the Triple C is that we have a continuation of the culture of violence that we saw since Mr. Mugabe's era. All the suggestion that this is a new republic, it's a second republic, it's a new dispensation, the mask has completely fallen. And if anything, this regime is worse than Mugabe. If you look at how they treat pre-trial prisoners, if you look at how the opposition is being treated, the refusal of the right to bail, the abuse of state institutions, it's a continuum, but things are getting incrementally worse. Even if you look at what happened in Bari, you've got ZANU-PF thugs saying to members that they believe to be Triple C, you've got no right to sell here. Well, how does that happen in a constitutional democracy? The right to trade is constitutionally protected.
So
how do you take it away? How do you take it away because someone is Triple C? And it's not true that the Triple C killed anyone. In the same way that it's not true that Job Sikala incited violence or perpetrated violence. They killed Mo Blessing Ali. They can't even apologize. Even if you look at what happened at her funeral, where her family was being refused the opportunity to mourn her. ZANU-PF members saying, no, you can't come here. You can't come if you're Triple C. What kind of constitutional democracy is that? Section 67 of the Constitution is clear. It says that every citizen has the right to challenge government. We've got the constitutional right to actually say, we believe Mr. Mnangagwa was wrong. We believe that ZANU-PF has caused mass poverty, mass suffering, that they're responsible for corruption, and their record speaks for itself. 2.2 billion stolen under corruption every single year. These are the statistics from ZAC. 49% of the population living in extreme poverty. And this is what citizens are responding to when they say, no, we choose the Triple C, we choose change. And what ZANU-PF's response, instead of coming up with a value proposition that can counter the ideas put forward by the Triple C, they resort to violence. That's all they know. That's why we've got those border Gezi youths who are being trained in violence. They've dispatched people into all rural areas. And as you see, the Triple C penetrating deeper and deeper into rural areas, ZANU-PF's response is to just beat and harass citizens. That's unconstitutional. We continue to call for peace as the Triple C. We call for a free and fair electoral playing field. We've engaged SADC on this issue because their conduct violates the SADC guidelines on elections, AU principles. The African Union spoke of silencing the gun, but it's ZANU-PF that brings guns to rallies and just starts shooting wantonly at citizens. And when the Triple C makes reports to the police, we never hear the outcome of these investigations. The only people you see in jail are Triple C members. What happens when ZANU-PF members are arrested? Look what happened to Mayor Justice Wajgajena. He comes in within less than 24 hours. He's given bail. Shortly after that, he's given his passport. The same thing happened to Mike Chimombe. Why? Because they belong to ZANU-PF. Henrietta Rushwaya, caught red-handed smuggling gold. Right now, she's out of prison. She's been acquitted. All of this constitutes an abuse of state institutions by ZANU-PF. partisan and selective application of the law, which is something we denounce. Like I said already, Section 219 of the Constitution is very clear. The police have a duty to act professionally, independently, and ensure that all citizens, not just ZANU PF citizens, are safe. To police, to protect the property of all citizens. We saw all the destruction of property, the destruction of homes of Triple C members that happened in Matobo and in Caesar. All of that simply has to stop. We want elections. We don't want war.
Literally now, we literally have 2 minutes. I'm going to give each of you a minute to wrap up. Comrade Mugwadi, we are going into by-election. We're going to be in elections, the big elections, 2023. As a party, what message are you sending? What efforts are you making to get to the electorate to say, look, guys, this is not about life or death. It is just a contestation. Let's not be violent. 1 minute.
Thank you very much. I hope you allow me to say what I want. The manner you have allowed other people in this room to say what they want uninterrupted.
Yes, I was giving. Yeah, no. It's fine. I can give you a recording of this. You can check the times that I was giving. That I have on that one. We can. I'm quite happy. Let's check the recording. We see what time I allocated each of you. Let's do that. I'm quite happy to do that. Let's hold each other to that if you'd like.
The good thing I've told you, you have over-interrupted me than was necessary.
No. The good thing is I've allocated each of you equal time. No, as I have done now. No, it does matter because you are because you are questioning. I have given you guys equal time. My stopwatch is here. I'm giving you equal time, uninterrupted. So when you start, okay, it's fine. The recording is there. The recording is there. The recording is there.
I'm not making a complaint, but it's just a suggestion.
No. You are quit. No. I take. Let me say, I take personal exception to that. I'll allow you to complete, but I've taken personal exception to that. I am going to get yes.
If you do that with,
I also would like you. I'm going to send you the recording, and I would also like you to reflect. Please go ahead,
sir. You're just
sir.
Confirming what I was saying. As you continue to interrupt me, even as I raise issues,
I will give you equal time. But like I said, 1 minute to you and 1 minute to
Advocate Mahere.
Your 1 minute begins now.
Let me just say the 1 minute is over for me. You can take over, madam.
On that note, we must end this edition of the platform I do not want to be accused of being unfair when, to be honest, I have kept time. No, I have not interrupted. My name is Fadzayi Mahere. Thank you so much for coming through to the program, for tuning in. Thank you to Advocate Mahere. Thank you to Comrade Mugwadi. Thank you to Assistant Commissioner Nyathi, who joined us on the phone. I think the network was quite bad. He is out in Bulawayo, and we thank him for making the time, and certainly look forward to updates from him on that. I want to thank all the listeners who got in touch with us, sent through their messages. There were so many of them, we couldn't get to all of them, but I want to thank you as well, those who tuned via the live stream. We'll be back again on Wednesday to bring you more of this program, so be sure to join us then. For now, keep it on ZiFM stereo for your rest of your evening's entertainment. Have a wonderful evening. Good night.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
We are Z. The hits live